It was always clear to me that she was an animal in survival mode. And I think it was a particular raccoon video that I saw of a human like cornering a raccoon like in a trash can, and the raccoon responding accordingly. And I was like, that's her. And that was the kind of beginning of really having a foothold, I feel like. And then, you know, once I met Kyle, I was like, this is going to be easy.
Congratulations to all of you. I never thought I would call a horror movie magical, but it really is. So magical. And I want to start with you, JT, because obviously you wrote this, you devised this whole story. And one of the things that's so brilliant, and I want to know how you came up with it, is this sort of plot device of the structure and the order in which we learn all of this information. How did you come up with this?
It was a strange, like, organic thing, and I've had this question a lot of times, and it wasn't that I set out to write a non-linear movie, although there have been some great ones. It was sort of that this idea started with a image of a woman running through the woods, archetypal final girl, and I couldn't get it out of my head, and that's how ideas come to me. Like, I'll have an image, and I'll sometimes hear music and see colors and have an idea of what that image is or who that character is. And then some of those ideas die on the vine over the course of months, and some of those ideas grow and continue to haunt me. And this one grew and continued to haunt me, but I didn't know why, because it was a very kind of cliche idea. It was Jamie Lee Curtis at the end of Halloween, you know, Laurie Strode. And I was like, is there another approach to this final girl? And over the course of many months of hikes and showers and the state between dreams and wakefulness, the rest of her story started to come to me, and it involved this unspeakable evil on her tail, the demon. And I still didn't know why it was compelling to me, because I didn't want to do something familiar. And then the story came to me in that order, and I realized that the unusual and dynamic approach to this final girl that I hadn't seen before was her actually not being the final girl, and I knew it had to be told in that order, or it would feel conventional. So it's just the way it came to me, and the way I knew it needed to be told, and so by the time I wrote it, it kind of felt like it wrote itself.
It's amazing. I want to commend you, because there was a huge round of applause in here with the banner at the beginning declaring that this was shot in 35 millimeter.
Thank you. Not everybody likes that. Thank you.
But this film really has so much epic style. I mean, it's very intimate. A lot of the time it's two people talking, and you're shooting in 2.35, which is a really bold widescreen choice. Can you tell us why you also thought the story needed to be told this way?
We'd been looking at a lot of movies over the course of a few years, Giovanni and I, as we became friends. And my first movie was Spherical, although it was 2perf 35 millimeters, so it's still widescreen. But he was the one who said, why don't we do this anamorphic? And so we started, the movies, he started referencing movies that I liked and that we were both turned on by, that were shot anamorphic, and, everything back to like Ken Russell's The Devils, and I just was like, you think that'll work for this? It's so intimate. And it really was Vonnie's initial idea to go anamorphic, and I couldn't be happier that we went that route.
So to you, Giovanni, I mean, you have obviously been gaining. I mean, this is just an astonishing debut for a cinematographer. And I think you've been working very much under the radar for 10 or 15 years, gaining this practical experience, making commercials and videos. And I want to hear all about how that prepared you for this. But I'm also interested because you've worked with such great visionary directors and cinematographers, just recently, Jim Cameron and Russell Carpenter and Jimmy Muro. So what have you also absorbed from all of the amazing cinematographers you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a thing where I became such a nuisance to those guys, and it was just always these questions that I grew up on film sets. Really, I started acting when I was 9 or 10 years old, and it was always this fascination. I mean, those were really more or less my schoolmates, and then at a certain point, I had an opportunity to sort of step back and reevaluate my life, and I sort of just became inexorably drawn to it. I guess that was 15 years ago. That fell flat.
Yeah, no, sorry, yeah, but it's amazing that. But you say you're inexorably drawn to it, and you spent 10 or 15 years. There must be something as you were going along that kept you going, that gave you the momentum to do another project and another.
Yeah, I mean, as far as shooting, yeah, definitely. I think it was just also just having a technical bent or inclination and just being fascinated with this. I don't know. I guess it's hard to explain, but it's just it's something that I definitely want to do more of, and evolve that even. Looking at all the new formats and what's happening with VistaVision and all of that, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm. All right, Willa and Carl, we have to come to you. I want to talk to you about your preparation and how long you had to prep, because I mean, Willa, you have such a puzzle to put together about how she came to be, who she came to be. I mean, both of you have, fascinating backstories. So can you tell us about your preparation?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I probably had about a month after I got the job before I went to Portland, maybe a little less. And I mean, the first thing I did was I put the script in order because it's out of order, and I had to start.
You and everybody else.
And I started to understand, what really happened to this woman over the course of the movie, so that I could then understand what had happened to her previous to the beginning of the movie that then made her who she is by the time we meet her at the beginning of the movie. And that was sort of the puzzle to put together. And I think, there's a million different ways that you kind of start to find your way in. And I think that for her, a lot of it was music for me. A lot of it was weird videos on YouTube, including, raccoon videos. I found a lot of if you Google a lot of weird stuff as an actor, I feel like you're like, how do you die? What happens when you die? Is there an afterlife? No, I think looking up animals was an obvious thing, because
this is what Kyle said he was going to do, like get really wild tonight. I mean, this is the wildest you've ever been.
Well, hey, it's because Kyle's here. I'm unleashed, baby. This is the first time we've been together since we shot the movie 2 years ago, and I'm just so excited. No, I think it was always clear to me that she was an animal in survival mode, and I think it was a particular raccoon video that I saw of a human like cornering a raccoon like in a trash can, and the raccoon responding accordingly, and I was like, that's her, and that was the kind of beginning of really having a foothold, I feel like. And then, once I met Kyle, I was like, this is gonna be easy.
Wow.
And Kyle, for you, I mean, we imagine that we allude to the fact that you're with someone else who you're perhaps about to cheat, and that you have all of these, you're sober, you have all of these clues. How did you put it all together?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did not put the script in order. I had to read it a few times to make sense of it. But I started working that way and just breaking the scenes down individually, because there's weird things you have to do where it's almost like, do I need to lean further towards being the bad guy here than maybe I normally would, versus playing it, a completely different way. But like, to your point too, there are all those little hints. He is sober. He does have a past relationship. And then what does that mean? Like, he's not like he's a pretty sad guy, you know, and he's out looking for affection. He's looking for attention from somebody, and he just happens to have met the absolute wrong fucking person to do that
Or
with.
the right person.
Or absolute right person, depending on how you take it. Because it is still kind of this weird kind of love story, and it's breaking, you know, all of those things down in his wants and his needs, and even in some sick way, like by the end, there's still this connection between the two of them, and you know, so it's sort of creating that and coming up with the backstory of what is his life before this, and you know, also him dealing with drugs, and what does it mean to basically relapse with this person, like just to try to get that affection and what that does to him, and it's really just kind of picking those clues out and building it all from there.
And that relapse is interesting what you say, because I couldn't stop thinking after I read J.J. Abrams' quote. I don't know if you've seen it, but he
No, I haven't seen it. What did he say?
You have no idea. You know, he says that this is it's heartbreaking. This film is heartbreaking, which at first I thought was odd, but then I was like, no, this is Shakespearean tragedy. It is those flaws that is the reason why their love story can't succeed. And you know, it's your flaw which leads you to her, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was going to piggyback in there and just say, I mean, I think that was a huge part too of what JT and I initially connected on in our first conversation, because I initially had a meeting with JT when I got sent the script, and he was, you know, considering who to cast. And you know, the most important thing to me, having only read the script a couple of times before we met, was just this essential quest to find the humanity of the lady, and to never abandon that humanity, and to not play this character for the twist or the reveal or the craziness, or God forbid making her a sociopath, because I don't believe any of those things to be true. And in our first meeting, that I think that was a huge thing that JT and I connected on, was just the amount of like kind of love and empathy I had for this woman, and how much I wanted to be able to kind of like explore why that was my feeling I was having.
I think, like, obviously getting these two to play these roles, I mean, they're the pillars of the movie, and the movie wouldn't work without the two of them in those roles. And I think that to Willa's point, it was really, really important for this movie. I know the marketing, for good reason, was a lot about going in blind and the twist and all this stuff. It was really important for us, for the movie, not to, you know, rely on a twist. There's no twist at the end. I mean, there's surprises throughout the movie, but there is a reveal that some people are super shocked by. That's before the midpoint. And I think that the important thing to me was being able to look back at these performances and these characters and never feel like we were cheating the audience. So, you know, if you watch Kyle, if you really go back and watch that chapter 3, that's the first chapter, once you know where everything's going, like, he's never playing a villain. He's never pretending to be more evil and demonic than he actually is to fool you. He's playing. You can recognize he's playing anger and frustration, and he's been hurt, and that's all there. But I think both of them, Willa and Kyle, in every scene, we talked about them playing the honesty of their characters, the emotional honesty of their characters, and not ever worrying about, you know, leading the audience anywhere. We knew the narrative structure would do that. And by the way, if for some people it doesn't do that, it's okay, because the movie isn't about that twist. It's about the push and pull between the two of them and their dynamic, and that relationship, and that doomed relationship, and the different stages of it, and what happens to the two of them. But the acting they were doing was just, to me, so brilliant, because it's, you know, there's one role that's obviously a little flashier because it's super like fucking like the flame burns bright, but there was something, a miraculous thing that Kyle had to achieve, which was that subtlety and that like the fact that you knew that people are talking about the fact that he was a relapsed drug addict, and it's never mentioned in the script. He says, I haven't done that in a while. It's just cocaine. But the fact that you know that so clearly, and we're all just talking about it right now. It's a testament to the actor, and what was put forth there in the behavior of the actor. Yeah.
Wow, thanks.
Yeah, and
Very nice of you.
So I also want to come back a little bit to, Willa saying that the way she tracked it, which makes these brilliant performances, it's weird that as I understand it, you maybe started the shooting order with the sort of culmination of their relationship, which also was that choice or necessity, because that also seems like it might have been tricky maybe for you guys to perform starting shooting the most perhaps intense scenes.
It was necessity, and that's when we realized Willa Fitzgerald was fucking brilliant, because she was able to do that. No, seriously, please give her a big hand. It was crazy. And I thought we were doing this tremendous work, and we were sending dailies back, and there were other people who didn't understand what tremendous work the actors were doing, and so it was shocking. But that was what we had to shoot first, and it was all about schedule and making the budget. And Willa was able to rise to the occasion during that scene, as was Kyle. I mean, that's the scene when they have the most intense connection and finally decide to break up. So.
So I want to just talk to you both a little bit about how you played and rehearsed, and I don't know if you had any exercises or anything, because it's like if I sort of start in order of the story rather than the way it unravels. When I think about the blue scene, it's sort of the prelude, the seduction. It's so. Can you just tell us about how you prepared together, if there was rehearsal to just perform that scene?
You can go.
Okay. I mean, we had like a week before we started shooting the movie, and we both actually have the same agent, and I knew that she loved Kyle, and she gave me his number, and like before we got there, we had like a FaceTime, and then as soon as we were in Portland, we just hung out as much as possible, because I think a large part of forming any sort of like on-set chemistry is just having a comfortability there. And if you have the luxury of having like a little extra time to get to kind of know somebody quickly, it helps. Yeah. But for the car scene in particular, that was one of the last things we shot in the order of shooting. We had already shot the vast majority of the movie by that point. And I remember going into that day, we were just both like, this is going to be so easy and so fun because compared to everything else we'd already shot, it was like just like child's play.
We can just hang out.
Yeah, we were like, we just get to like chat in a car.
Good time. But we spent a lot of time together too. I mean, we like lived together.
Yeah, we did.
We actually lived together for like the back half of the movie. We shared an Airbnb, so we would go have these like we would have these like crazy days, and then come back and be like, "What do you want for dinner?" And we would just hang out and sort of decompress and download and talk about the next day and come up with ideas, and then just go our separate ways. And it was kind of cool to be able to sit back and ask about just how you felt about everything and what the next day would entail. And but we ended up we got to spend a lot of time together, and we would just sort of talk about what we had to do the next day, get comfortable. And
I know it is kind of weird though that we shot the car scene last, because we did truly start with the ice box and all of that stuff, and so it really kind of was in inverse order, but
completely.
But in some ways I think it was actually amazing, because the kind of I don't know, I feel like every time I watch that first scene, there's so much happening, and there's so much happening for you that I didn't even necessarily see, because I spent a lot of that scene not totally looking at you. Mm-hmm. And when I got to watch it, I just feel like by that point we knew the characters so well that there was such an effortlessness in just being with them in this conversation that I feel like it was elevated by the experience that we already had lived as them.
Yeah, I think because you already knew what was coming, what we had already done, and what we had already been through, that we could sort of throw it all away. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that we weren't having to play at anything that we weren't sure of yet, or something that wasn't going, that we didn't know was going to happen. We knew what had happened. You
Yeah.
know, we knew how it went down. We knew how intense it was or how aggressive it was or whatever, that at that point we could totally just almost the pressure of it was off, that you could forget about it, that it was like, let's just make like a cute movie for a second.
Totally.
You know, like let's just have a good time in this car for a few days. And
well, yeah, because also like, you know, neither of them have ulterior motives. Like it really is
at that
pure,
point,
it is like a pure moment of connection there. And it was really the thing of like, by that point we knew we had already done everything we needed to do in the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
That it wasn't like we needed to be like, you know, like needling something.
No, you could just be these two people who are kind of flirting and going through what they're going through and having the conversations that they have without having to worry about everything that's coming next. Yeah.
I think the music in this movie is absolutely amazing. And I love the way it sort of operates as, or I thought perhaps projecting that it operated like your inner monologue. And so I wondered if you had the music to work with before you started working or not.
It's so interesting because it was Chris who said this to me. We actually went to go see Zeeberg's concert the other night, and she played all of the music from the movie at this concert, and it was actually the first time I've like really thought about it like that. But obviously, like I think I do understand that in like a a soul way, but I hadn't really put it in that clear of terms. But every time JT would get one of the songs sent to him, he would, run around set and like hold his iPhone up to our ear and be like, listen to this. This is the song that's going to be going over this thing. And we'd always be like, okay, JT. Like we were like always kind of like trying to like do whatever the next thing was that was coming. But I think that the music does function like brilliantly as and it is sort of an internal monologue experience. But that's definitely been something that I've thought about after.
And I thought it became really, really, really clear to me in that sort of motel scene. And I want to talk about that split diopter shot because I was just like, whoa, Giovanni Ribisi, this is incredible. Because that's the moment when you realize that she's giving him something that she's not taking, and you start to have these questions. Well, you already perhaps, but not until the middle of the movie you're having those questions. But anyway, this is such an intimate, like the motel scenes are so intimate, and it's such a power dynamic play between you both. And we see your vulnerability and so how long were you in that room? It must have been so intense in a real hotel room.
Yeah, how many days did we shoot? 3? 5? I have no idea.
8. It was a week and a half. It was like 6-7 days.
I was way off. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Wow, that long?
Yeah.
Damn.
And you just came to play. You were just ready to play, and the dialogue took care of it for you.
Well, we had actually built a hotel room on a stage. And then at one point, somebody in production realized that it was outside of the zone, and that they had to put the entire crew up. And so, for some reason, we got shifted over to this. But it was 18 hours before the shooting day that the production designer had to come in and dress through. And it's completely
Priscilla Elliott. Yeah.
Completely different. And so we kind of got thrown into the situation where everything changed, at least for us on that. And I don't know if you guys knew that, right? I mean,
No.
The hotel room looked like a travel lodge too. I mean, it looked like it was like white walls and
kind
bad
of
90s
devastating.
furniture. Like it looked nothing like the what you see. Every inch of that was Priscilla Elliott and her art
she
department.
came in and was a magician and pulled an all-nighter on a Sunday so that we could be set up for Monday. The paint was still drying when we were shooting in there. But it was 8-foot ceilings, and where do you put a light and all of that, and to that split field diopter shot. One of the things that we had talked about was referencing a lot of the anamorphic movies from the 1960s out of the UK, specifically with Freddie Francis and Douglas Slocombe and David Watkin, these amazing cinematographers. And I wasn't able to do that because I just wasn't able to get enough light in order to be able to like stop down for that deeper focus. So that was our one sort of like, we're gonna do this with a split field diopter. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, to talk a little bit about the the stuff we did in the room too. I mean, I think that by that point we'd already done a lot together, Kyle and I, and I think I think we got really lucky to have the foundation of working together that we had before we did that stuff. Because, intimacy scenes are always kind of weird and, always like a different level of working with someone. And I think that by that point, I really trusted Kyle and I really liked working with Kyle. And it was very easy. It really kind of like the truck. I think we had kind of gotten past some of like the stuff that at least as an actor, I really get kind of nervous about. And I think that for the lady, so much of that portion of her journey is about this like devastating betrayal by this person who she's put all of this hope and possibility onto, and that was something I was really excited to play with, and that felt like really delicious to play with. So that was, I loved all of the stuff in the motel room. I loved looking through his wallet in the bathroom and realizing who this person was, and dragging him down the hall. Which I actually did.
Yeah.
You loved it too, right, Kyle?
Every second of it. No, it was fun. I mean, it's those scenes can either, oh man, they could be horrible. It really, it's tough. I mean, it requires a lot of trust. I mean, you get into these intimate scenes and you get into these scenes with people that you have to give parts of yourself over to that you normally don't give to somebody for a long time, and you have to trust people, and you have to, really be willing to go to these dark and intense places with somebody that you don't necessarily, I mean, we were friends, but we like
for a week.
Yeah. But I didn't know you, I didn't know your middle name, you know what I mean? Like, but, no, but we had built a trust, and there was just sort of this understanding of like, let's just go. Yeah. You have to go all the way or this doesn't work. Yeah. And we had talked about that. We had discussed that. And there was sort of like whatever you need to do, I got you. And, let's just push this as far as we can. And, and we were able to do it. And it could have been very hard, but working with everybody and doing those scenes with you, it was a lot easier, just because there was that trust there and that kind of foundation already built, so we could just show up and do our job.
And we snorted so many B vitamins that we actually got high. So that helped too.
I was so jacked up.
The production was like, it won't do anything to you. But they didn't, I don't think, know how much we snorted.
I was wondering if you guys were only snorting B vitamins by the end of that day, because you were really, the placebo effect was real.
It
was
wild.
You were like, I feel out again. I was like, I swear those are.
Like, I could fly right now.
Let's go.
It wasn't B12 either. It was B6, so it's not supposed to do anything.
It's a lot.
Enough of anything will do something.
Giovanni, I don't want to feel like I'm stuck on this, but I kind of am. I feel like it's the first time that I'm aware of in global cinema history that we have a phenomenal actor who is DP. And I think we have a room full of actors, so we understand that relationship when you're on set with a cinematographer. You're also the cinematographer who's right there. And so I want to talk to really the three of you about that dance, because it is a dance between the camera operator and the actor. Especially these intimate scenes. How was it for you to have Giovanni sitting it there, and how was the flow for you, Giovanni?
Gosh, for me, I don't know. It was really. Well, I mean, my relationship was really about JT and wanting to support him, especially in the context of what was going on. Mm-hmm. And, this was just definitely, there was something really unique, for better or for worse, about this, the whole production. And I really looking at the actors, I was just blown away by how professional they were and how just magnetic and how easy they felt in front of the camera. And I think at a certain point really became JT, myself, and the actors Barbara and Ed Begley Jr. and really just wanting to be sort of to band together and get through this and do the best we could. But I was just you were talking about that scene in the truck, the blues scene, and this is, I think JT and I both share this. This is definitely one of my favorite scenes, because it's really the moment you fall in love with the character. I think that any movie is sort of a sociological event where you're inviting somebody into a world. And if you don't have that, then I don't know if I really want to. It's not a good movie for me, And it's the moment that I think we fall in love with these characters. And this is, this was an 8.5-page scene that we shot over 2 days, and they were pitch perfect every time. There was really. I don't even think they flubbed a line once. I think for the whole schedule, I think it was just really amazing for me to watch them. Yeah.
It was amazing to work with you. There were so many moments I remember where there was both the element of just having you on set because you operated so much, and being kind of so close and like intimately in our zone. Energy is energy. You feel the energy of the people who you're working with, and you can feel you can work off of that. And I think it's particularly special when you have an actor behind the camera. It was like a really
fucking weird.
No, but it felt so safe. Like I did feel like this extra layer of sort of support and protection, almost, of being like, oh, I just like have another scene partner. And the camera's always your scene partner, and your camera operator you always feel kind of very close to, but this was another level of that. And then there was also just like the special stuff where like sometimes you just be like, hey, just like in this like moment, you just like whisper to me, like just like if you pop up straight. Like, and I remember like when we were running over there, she said, pop up straight, it'll be way cooler. And it was like
it's better.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and because it was you, I was like, okay. Whereas like, I might have been a little bit more resistant if it had been somebody else. I don't know.
That's brilliant. We have a few audience questions that I want to try and get in before we go. This one is from Max for JT and Gio. What were your major influences for the visual aesthetic of the film? Oh, we might have covered that. Sorry. How did you choose to borrow from other works versus strive to create something unique for this project?
Vani and I had been watching so many movies over the course of years and talking a lot about specific things that were turning us on at the time. And we were just in line, which is kind of why I wanted to do a movie with him if he'd do it with me, because we were talking about different things, deep focus, precise and well choreographed shots. We were talking about primary colors, which were attractive to us because it just everything seemed tertiary at the time. It was so there was such a range of stuff from The Servant and Mademoiselle to Blue Velvets and Dead Ringers. We were just looking at all kinds of different things, and the amalgamation of all those things was all those things were serving something that was very specific. That I felt would hopefully feel fresh and unique, because we weren't trying to copy a specific movie. We were just using influences from different movies we love to serve this very unique and special vision. So I'll turn it over to you, Giovanni.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's exactly that. There was you start from a place sort of imitation or being referential, and then you want to leap off from that, I think, I think that from, maybe I shouldn't say this, but, we saw Pulp Fiction, and that sort of changed the color of the sky, and then you had the filmmaker saying,
Not us when we were preparing for this movie.
no, but I mean, 30 years ago or whatever, and then you have the same filmmaker talking about, how many films they've watched and how influential X, Y, and Z was, and I think that became sort of the parlance and the modus operandi for filmmaking for so many people. We're standing on the shoulders of a lot of these people, I think. But at the same time, I look back on a movement like what was going on musically in the '60s, and it's almost hard to pinpoint, other than like the blues revolution. But it's almost hard to pinpoint where you go, where was all that creativity coming from? This sort of originality. And so I think from that, sorry, there's a really long explanation, but at a certain point, we arrived at this mantra for ourselves, where we were just simply trying to do what was wrong, what was just sort of off the beaten course, and then to try to find a way that we could make that honest, and so these film and really saturated colors and that deep focus. So many people in photography nowadays are talking about the bouquet, or what something looks like when it's out of focus in the background. And we wanted to just get away from all of that and really get back to what we love.
We talked about blood on the flower bed, which ended up being like our main thing. It was the candy coating, something fairy tale like about this. And it was just what we were in the mood for. And I didn't know if it would come out in a way that would connect with people, but it's what we felt was right for this movie. And we would send dailies back, and sometimes we'd get calls like, I thought we were making a horror movie. What is this, like people in pajamas cooking breakfast? It looks like Pee-wee's fucking Playhouse. And I was like, it looks like Pee-wee's Playhouse? Thank you. But it was one of those things where we just wanted to do even in Oregon. And we talked a lot about this stuff with the production designer, Priscilla Elliott, too. Like it was a unified decision. Like we talked to her and Rudy Rojas, our costume designer, and everybody was in line with controlling color and all this stuff. And even shooting in Oregon, which is, most of the Oregon movies that people were referencing, that I was able to see like what they were doing up in Oregon, were dreary, bleak, rainy movies. And we wanted high color saturation and slower speed film stocks. And I said, when do we have to shoot in Oregon to get green forests and bright sunny skies? And that's why we were there in the hot fucking summer. And so everything we were doing, we were trying to just do a little differently than we'd been used to recently. It wasn't like we weren't being super derivative of things from a different time.
And bravo to you for doing that. We don't have time, unfortunately, to go into it, but the real life specificity that you create in 1 minute with the legends that are Barbara Hershey and Ed Begley Jr., it's incredible. I mean, just
I worship both of them. They're
we
amazing.
spent half an hour just talking about that scene, but we won't. From Christine for Kyle. Did you add any personal touches or improvisation to the demon that weren't in the script?
Oh, fuck. Yes.
Can't wait.
A little bit of stuff. There is one line that I.
Oh God.
Oh, no. It's in it, right?
Yeah, it was your line.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
God
yeah.
You're going to say that on the record.
Yeah, it's kind of the only one. The rest, I mean, the script is tight. Like there wasn't much that we had to fuck with. But I was like, I just want to say the meanest fucking thing I can say to her in my life. And I went up to JT and I was like, what if I tell her I'm gonna cut her from one set of lips to the other? And he was like, oh, and I was like, I know. I feel like it has to be the worst possible thing I can
hard to
say.
offend me.
And I just need to say the most. It took me like 5 minutes to get the guts up to even ask you. Because I was like, this is so fucking bad. And I can't even believe I'm going to say this to him right now.
I didn't know him very well at this point.
But it was like, I don't know why. It was so important to me to be like, I just need something meaner here than what's in the script. I need it to be so much meaner. And he said yes. And that's in the movie. That's like the only improv I had. And I'm fucking ashamed of myself.
Did it? You found it. You were in character.
Yeah, there it is.
This is from Caroline and David for Willa. How many takes did you get? Oh, And I also want to talk a little bit about, this. How many takes did you get for the final shot of the movie? That death scene. I mean, it's metamorphosis from the time you like really chapter 6 when you're like in survival mode and that whole death scene. You have to describe the whole thing, the metamorphosis when you see the demon. It's
well, I mean, I think that scene functions on a couple of different levels, and it's obviously a death scene, but I think it's also a scene of reckoning and acceptance and kind of salvation for her, and in a lot of ways, I mean, I think she's kind of happiest and freest in those minutes that follow afterwards. And we did it twice. We did it one day because we always were kind of like aiming for this like magic window of 10 minutes of light. and the scene was like 8 minutes long or something. And so we had one shot to do it on one day at the end of the day. And it worked great, but the light I think was just a little bit off. And so we did it again on
the light. It was the light's fault.
Fuck the light. And then we did it a second time, and that was my last day of shooting, and the last scene I shot actually. And
Everybody's last day. That was it.
Oh, I thought there was something. Oh, okay.
The whole movie.
Wow. Okay. Well, it was the last shot of the whole movie, and it was. I think by that point I had been living in the character with the character for a really long time. We'd gone through a lot together, and it was both a goodbye for me personally, a goodbye to the character, and I think it's a beautiful moment of just kind of like unfolding. The character is always like kind of gripping everything so tightly, and it's kind of like a moment of release.
Was amazing. I want to congratulate you, JT. I think this is just a masterful piece of I don't know how you managed to surprise us, but you did so many times. Congratulations to all of you. It's really, really impressive, wonderful work. Thank you for coming and sharing all of it with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.